with public comments. I'll remind people you have 3 minutes to make your comment. When the clerk shows you that red paddle, it's time is up. Just because we don't necessarily respond to your individual comment doesn't mean we're not listening, doesn't mean we don't take it very seriously. It's just that we have a very long agenda and we have to move through this process. Of course, there will be some times when we have to respond, but just understand we are trying to move through a very lengthy agenda. We have 11 people signed up for agenda items, and they'll go first. We'll start with Ms. Doris Devine, followed by Reverend Gilmore. If you can make your way to the podium. And if all the folks from the Queens just maybe want to come and make their presentation jointly, we can go ahead and address item number 52, and maybe that will move it faster than having everyone come separately and talk. But it's y'all's choice as to how you want to proceed.
Good evening, Honorable Mayor.
Good evening. Good evening.
Awesome councilmen and councilpersons, I must say.
Good evening.
I always say first giving honor to God anytime I get up before any audience to speak, because He is the head of all of our lives. I'm here to speak on the Queens and Magnolia Terrace, our neighborhood association. This is not the first time we've been here, and I'm almost sure it's not going to be our last time. Okay, I'm sorry. Okay, I'm sure it won't be our last time. But the purpose of this is the neighborhood itself seemed neglected. The reason we have such great concern is that I love everyone up here, especially our councilman and our mayor. I love them dearly, and the other councilman and councilperson. But what is being said is, and it's sad, you know, Doris, you running around here and you and Starks and all y'all neighborhood telling us to put these people in and make sure they get in. But look what they're doing now. They're not doing anything for our neighborhood. We recognize it's not you, but you are over these people. And they're not looking at the work. I just passed our crew. And the one who, they can verify it. We just passed a crew. And one of the men is laying out, sleep, while some others are working. The problem with the city is not you all, but the ones that are working for you are not being made accountable for the work that they are doing. I know you can't magnify everybody, but if the city is still having the problems that we're having, and you study, and I know I've called him personally, and he studies sending people out to a home I've called him on, and you still having these same problems. They're putting a bandage on them and letting it go. And I've been living in the Queens for over 30-some years. We got married and came. It was a beautiful neighborhood. And I can't put it on you because the people have letting it go down. But I can say code enforcement, the problems that's going on in our city with code enforcement, cars in the yard. Some years ago was passed that you couldn't park, and I had to build another driveway to make sure I go along with this code. But now I'm driving down Queen Mary, and it is horrible. The houses are falling down, and nothing is being done. We've had a house on Queen Mary, and Flag Chapel Road has been burnt, and it's a hazard to the children, to everybody in the area. Over 3 years, and the house is still standing. And if somebody walk in there, it look like the house will just fall down on them. We got Magnolia Drive, 5635, water just running, and this has been going on for years. These are things that we reported over and over, and we recognize you all are sending people out there. Mr. Councilman Priester, and before Councilman Stamp got so busy, he was doing the same thing. But Councilman Priester be at every one of our meetings. And they're trying, but it's not the workers that people are talking about. They're talking about you all. And if y'all don't get a handle on it, I don't care what I say or any of these people behind me or around me in this room. It doesn't matter what who says. It's going to be over. And that's going to hurt me because I know what kind of people we're dealing with. I know y'all care, and I know you want it done. But it will not be done if somebody don't make these people that's doing this work out here be accountable for the work that they are doing.
All right. Thank you, Ms. Devine.
I'm sorry. Thank you, Paige.
Mr. Mayor.
I normally follow the practice that I don't respond, but I know that some of the people may leave based on the lengthy agenda before we can respond to this. First and foremost, Ms. Devine, I appreciate you coming here. I appreciate the concerns of the Queens. Please understand, first and foremost, that the Queens, along with all our neighborhoods, are very near and dear to me, and I want to ensure that we get it right. I want to basically bring you into an understanding that isn't often talked about when it comes to the performance of some of our employees. The reality is that there has been a huge deficit in training across the board when it comes to city employees. When I look at someone who isn't doing a job, I evaluate two things. Are they not doing their job because, one, they refuse to do it, or are they not doing their job because they've never had sufficient training to do their job in the first place, right? And so we are trying to implement more systems that have more accountability. And when I say that they aren't trained, not only do we have deficits in terms of their training, and this isn't for every city employee, right? It's not a 100% issue.
That's right.
But a lot of times there are supervisors that haven't been properly instructed on how to supervise. And when it comes from up top, that's when you have the issues that flow down. And so that is why we are investing in making certain that proper training takes place so that you can do that. The other thing, I know that you get the infamous answers when you have a blighted property, when you have structures that are there, and you've been told year after year after year that property is on the list. We discussed this in work session yesterday. One of the things that the Planning and Development Department is attempting to do today, I believe, is implement a system that helps give you more accurate information as to where those things that you have called about are. One of the suggestions that took place was, I think it was Councilman Banks, because we talked about the system that you would be able to go on the computer and look. I understand everybody doesn't go on the computer. And I agreed with his assessment that we need to be able to send notices out to you guys, letting you know where things are. We don't want to patronize you, right? We don't want to just, say, it's in the queue, right? It's going to happen. And I know that that's the answer that you've been getting year after year, and day, week after week. And so we really want to be more accountable and give you more answers. And so we appreciate where you being here. We appreciate you maintaining and staying in Jackson. And we're going to show love for your community. I promise you. I don't promise that it'll be easy. I don't promise that it'll happen in a moment, right? But I do promise you I will work day and night in order to better perform, in order to address this. But the levels of inefficiency are systemic and they're deep, right?
Exactly.
And I wouldn't be doing you justice if I didn't tell you the truth about that. Okay.
Right. I don't want to leave the Queens because then you can't call me the Queen.
And then look, if you go, you the Queen, and you know what I'm going to ask you for, right? You know exactly. I'm going to ask about some tea cakes and everything else. So I appreciate that.
Reverend Gilmore is the next speaker, followed by Miss Sampson.
Okay. I won't be long. I'm here in solidarity with all of my neighbors in the Queens, just to first of all, to thank all the councilmen who have come out over the years to deal with the ditch that's in the back of my house. It's well documented. You have the photographs over a 30-year span. My wife is very meticulous about documentation, and Councilman Stamps have been out and taking pictures. I just want to remind everyone that there is this problem. I know you're doing your best, but I want to continue to put a face on the problem. It's not some abstract thing. It's real. It's tangible. The ditch is corroding behind my house on Queen Eleanor and Queen Christina. I think the mayor was at a meeting a couple months ago, and I said it was a metaphor of inability or a challenge for the city. But I'm here to encourage you, to let you know that the problem still exists. My wife tells me that every day. And I'm here just to give support to my neighbors. They are conscientious, dedicated neighbors and take pride in the neighborhood and want to encourage everyone not to forget us in the Queens. And we will continue to encourage you and prod you along the way. Thank you.
Thank you. All right.
The magic month is May for the Queens in terms of ditch maintenance, and so that's when we expect to do to really address that. Okay.
Thank you.
All right. Adine Sampson is next, followed by Valerie Berry. But if you want to do Mr. Starks, and if you want to pull up those pictures,
Good evening, Mayor.
Emailed.
To the council lady, to all my neighbors all over Jackson, Mississippi. Good afternoon. I'm the president of the Queens Magnolia Terrorist Association.
Michael
I
Starks.
come to piggyback.
Just state your name for the record. I'm sorry.
Okay. I come to piggyback off of Michael Starks, Sr. Come to piggyback off of Mr. Vine and Mr. Gilmore. I have a problem with code enforcement. I'm tired of them coming out putting stickers on vehicles, knowing that they don't run, know that they haven't ran in about 6 to 10 years. Trees growing up in the cars. It's time to move them out, Mr. Mayor. I've been on both of the councilmen till I know they take aspirin when they leave me, because I don't not only just tell them about it, I take them out there to the place and show them. And they do report to the city. Once it get to the city, it look like it's dead. This didn't just happen. Over the years, it's been happening. And it's time to step up and do something about it. I called Public Works, Mr. Miller, your office 2 or 3 times. No response. Now, the ditch I had talked about for quite some time, over 2 or 3 years, right there at the corner, Queen Mary and Flag Chapel.
Move the picture to the ditch.
You can't get there because it's grown up. The water's not going anywhere. You come put a little half a gallon of asphalt in the hole, and as soon as it rains, the asphalt's gone. And when they come out, they half do the streets. It's still rocky. We have spent more money in this city on cars breaking down. My neighbors, my relatives coming to town. My neighbors' relatives are coming to town, and they leave with a bad taste in their mouth. It's time to quit patching up something and make sure if you're going to put some asphalt, fill it up. Don't put a little bit in just to cover the bottom. And I say one thing, for the police department, the chief is doing an outstanding job. My commander's doing an outstanding job. I have no problem with it. But code enforcement, rest of the city, we want to put you on notice that we're looking. We're waiting for something to happen. This is not just your city. This is our city. And I want you to know, we're behind you, Mr. Mayor, but you know me for quite some time. And when I say something, I'm coming back. If it's not done, I'm coming back, and I'm going to keep coming back till it get done. But I know I'm going to go to my seat. Mr. Stamper took it up on himself to come out and cut a couple of lots on his own, on his own time. And I applaud him. Mr. Priest, I know you get tired of me.
No.
But, hey, just hang in there a little longer. So that's what we want to say. We want to let you know, Mr. Mayor, that we're behind you, and you know we for you. Mm-hmm. But it's time to do something.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right. Would anyone else from the group like to speak? All right.
One of my renters,
Yeah.
and she said she's going to end up leaving my home.
You got to come to the mic so we can get the recording.
This is one of my renters on Queen Victoria, and she told me one day, she says, I wanted to buy this home. She said, because I love it. She said, but the Queen doesn't get better. I can't buy this home. they were talking about Queen Christina. I have a home on Queen Christina. Tenants is not pleased for the same reason. So that's why we are crying out. We are crying out. The Queens need some help. And we don't mind doing anything y'all want us to do.
Go back to Ms. Harris, go back to those pictures that they sent. What address is that? And tell us so we can make sure we're all on the same page about code enforcement getting to that property. They sent some pictures. You got to speak into the microphone.
This Flag Chapel and Queen Mary. This Flag Chapel, this the burnt house has been burnt for over 3 years.
304 Flag.
304 Flag Chapel.
All right. We're doing that now. Go to this property. Which property is that?
The ditch. This is the Queen Mary Lane, and it's in the
5461.
Yeah.
All right. Can we get an update on
This is
where
the
this
ditch.
is with code enforcement?
This is the ditch that used to be a ditch. It's grown up with debris and everything. This has been like that for quite time. The city the public works came out one day to work. When I left and came back, they was gone too.
All right. You want to do the other picture?
These holes at the corner of Queen Juliana and Queen Mary, I hear them every day going home.
All right.
They patched that.
All right. We thank you for coming and expressing and being such an organized neighborhood association. We apologize that we have not provided the service that you deserve, and we look forward to making it right. Mr. Stamps?
Before you go, Ms. Devine, let me just put some context to what we're dealing with. When this is the third time this neighborhood has come to this meeting to address several issues. They're so organized, so they even decided that as a neighborhood they're going to get together and vote for the same person. They even had a rally of sorts at Mr. Stark's house to get everybody on one accord, so that they can affect the political process as a unified neighborhood. So much so that it spread all over Ward 4, where more people voted for Mayor Lumumba than voted for me in my own ward. That's how deep the relationships are. Then came along where we recognized Ms. Devine, and she had 200 people in this room celebrating her. Then, they had another meeting in the Queens where the mayor and the department heads came and everybody came, and, we had that presentation. And now we're here. And so the problem is that they've gone through all those steps that quality citizens are supposed to do and affect the process and try to get good folks elected and all that. I walked through that process to let the city workers know that look at what position you put us in. Because me, I don't have a problem firing anybody. Especially somebody asleep. Training is one thing, but basic decency in public. This is not something that you should be having to train grown people to not lay down and go to sleep in an open field on the job.
Can I say something?
Yes, sir.
You got to speak into the microphone. You got to speak into the microphone. Sorry.
Especially my wife, she always compared Councilman Stokes about his areas. She said so clean. And I wanted to tell Councilman Stokes that my wife always put you as the standard.
Thank you, little bro.
Yeah,
Thank you so much.
Yeah, I just want to say that.
And to Reverend Gilmore, his wife has a binder where she can show you for 30 years who came to her house, who took what pictures to talk about the same ditch for 30 years. It starts off with Credell Calhoun.
That's right.
At the beginning. And it ends with me. And it walks through the whole process. So I just want folks to understand that I don't know what else to tell them. And we had a meeting last night with several neighborhood presidents inside our ward. I'm sorry Mr. Starks couldn't be there. My prayers to your daughter and your granddaughter with that situation you got to deal with. So what we're going to ask for now is for that a quarterly meeting with the neighborhood presidents in Ward 4 and the council president and the mayor. And just so we can have a quarterly meeting just to update us on where we are with different issues across the ward, because, you know, our ward feels disenfranchised all the way from the viaduct being closed over on Grove Park, all the way down to some issues over at the golf course, all the way down to Sidewell and McClure. So it's and everything in between. So what we're asking for is a quarterly meeting with the mayor and the council president and the neighborhood presidents of the ward, because our neighborhood presidents feel so much weight because they're quasi-council people. They get the same phone calls I get. They get transferred down, and they don't get paid a dime. That's right. And so they feel a lot of pressure out in the neighborhood to perform because those neighborhood presidents got together and decided overwhelmingly that they were going to support this administration. Now, we got a good mayor, but I'm just saying there's some people in the group that's failing a good mayor. My heart goes out to you, and hopefully we can impress upon the people that work for you and work for us that they have to perform for us, because neighborhood, this is not the only neighborhood. Same thing over at Western Hills and other neighborhoods. They all got together and decided they was going to support this administration. And I just pray that we can come to a resolve. So that's our suggestion we come up with, is to have a quarterly meeting with all the neighborhood presidents and the mayor and the council president to talk about issues in our ward.
Mr. President.
Mr. Mayor.
First and foremost, let me say quickly that I certainly would agree to that meeting. That's not a problem for me. And I also say to you let me know that I beat you. I wasn't aiming to beat you. I was aiming to beat the other people that were on the ticket against me. But more importantly, I want you to know I acknowledge that your community has been neglected. Furthermore, I acknowledge that communities across this city have been neglected. Right?
Amen.
We recognize that. The reality is that neglect is probably decades long, right? If we talk about your ditch, right? Decades long, right? So I will let you know what my goals are. I am not going to promise you a 180-degree turn overnight or even within 4 years. My goal is to show you progress so that we can march down the list of things that have been neglected, right?
That's all we're asking for.
When it comes to city employees, and let me be clear, because there are some people that work very hard. Oftentimes, the people who work hard are working double time because they're not only doing their job, they're doing someone else's, right? Oh, yes. But it's not only what you expect, it's what you inspect.
That's true.
Right?
That's it. That's
and how you do that, right?
That's correct.
And so we're going to be making provisions to make certain that we inspect how things are taking place in this city, right? And you know,
and we're not saying all the city workers, because it's just like when I was in the classroom for 38 years. You had one bad teacher who's going to give all of us a bad name. So we understand that, but we just need some accountability because we put too many Band-Aids and nothing being done.
Public employment is unique to any other form of employment, right?
That's true.
And part of it is good because it protects people. But part of it creates a challenge because some people look at surviving instead of thriving, right? If we're in the private sector, then somebody can fire you at any moment, right? When you're in the public sector, you have civil service protection and all of these things which are in place because administration after administration, you don't want to be fired just because you didn't support someone, right? But at the same time, there are some people that find the loophole in that and don't do what they need to do. So we understand, and I promise that we're going to keep fighting for y'all, okay?
And please keep prayer for
absolutely
President Starks, because he left the hospital coming here and then going to have to go back. So please keep him in prayer.
I'll call you offline.
Okay. Mr. President.
Mr. Stokes.
Thank you. Mr. President, I've known President Stark for many years, and the Queens has always been a respected neighborhood in this city. Mm-hmm. People looked up to the Queens. I'm finna move to the Queens. And recently I heard a situation that I've witnessed in my ward, wet houses.
Exactly.
Wet houses.
Exactly.
Now, that's what people smoking that embalming fluid and then done killed somebody. Now, we have a meeting on next week, and Mr. Stotts will call you and your people with the United States Attorney, because we're not going to tolerate this kind of stuff in these older neighborhoods. We getting older, but our neighborhoods are still good.
Right.
And we just need a little help from the city to help keep them up.
Exactly.
Because once they start going down,
It's
ain't no
gone.
stopping. Then everybody going to move out like the lady telling you in your house. And then you
And so am I.
Because you ain't going to let them kill you.
That's right.
Thank you, Mr. President.
And then
Thank
I
you,
won't
Mr.
be the
Stotts. Y'all keep
queen,
up good work.
Mayor. Then
All
I
right.
won't be the queen.
All right. Thank you all very much.
Next Thursday.
Mr. Mayor,
Yes, sir.
thank you, Mr. Stokes. I'd like to acknowledge the rest of my people from the Queens.
Yes, please.
I mean, will you raise your hand, please?
All right.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
All right.
Y'all have an evening.
Okay, we're going to go back to public comments. Our next